and welcome to Africa Watch on the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I hope you're well wherever you are, and I hope everything is going okay. Thanks to every single person that has subscribed to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so, and don't forget to hit that notification button so that you find out every single time that we upload an episode. I want to thank our Patreon family, which is growing. If you want to see some of these stories way ahead of time, go ahead and join us, our Patreon account. Also, thanks to every single person through our PayPal. So many of you, especially Penny Phillips. Penny Phillips, you are like, you're amazing. You're like my top supporter on PayPal. I appreciate you so much, my sister. And just thanks to every single person that supports us and enables us to do so much on this show. You know, the more support we get, the more we'll be able to do, especially in 2019. We got big plans. We got big plans for this global African unity and global African revival that is underfoot. Now, I wanted to talk to you about something urgent that possibly a lot of people missed because it happened over the Christmas season. It's the Africa-European Forum that took place in Austria. Now, it took place around the 20th of December. Didn't really see much discussion about it. It was very interesting. So basically, it had like the African Union sitting president, who is Kagame. He's actually on his way out. I've told you guys, Kagame is big-time brotherhood. It also had Jean-Claude Juncker, whatever his name is. He's the president of the EU Commission. But most interesting is that it was actually hosted in Austria by Chancellor Kurz, who's the youngest. I think he's only like 31 or something like that. He's the youngest chancellor Austria has ever had. He's the youngest politician Austria, and I think the youngest politician in Europe right now. And they say that according to Time Magazine, the most important. But this is all New World Order vibes, New World Order. And it was all about digitization. So what happened is that, so they held this meeting to talk about the Africa-EU partnership. And the phrase that the European Union was using is that, Africa's future will shape Europe's destiny. And Europe's destiny is heavily reliant on Africa's future. They're finally telling us the truth, right? But it's all in their hands. Because, we saw the Chinese had their summit last year in the summer, where the President Xi Jinping or whatever of China gave $60 billion, no strings attached to every single president, which comes out to nothing. It comes out to like $1 billion each, which the presidents themselves, most of the African presidents could actually supply that money themselves. But stories for other days. Then we saw Prosper Africa towards the end of the year with the US, and it was this huge, the Trump strategy for Africa, where he's talking about, how they're going to be partners, and the US is going to be partners with Africa, and it's going to be a win-win situation, focusing on education, focusing on, education indoctrination, right? Education is brainwashing. We're clear about that. Focusing on terrorism, which just basically means military invasion, an excuse for military presence, and focusing on entrepreneurship and business or commercial interests, which basically what Trump was saying is that he's trying to counter the influence of Russia and China, which is trying to take over the US influence that they've had over the continent covertly and as bullies, right? So now the EU is not going to be left behind. So first of all, Jean-Claude Juncker, the president of the EU Commission, he gave this long speech where he talked about how Africa's population was set to double to 2.5 billion by 2050. Well, not if they have anything to do with it. We've seen their blatant eugenics agenda. We've seen them try to, poison us. We've seen them sterilizing our women. We've seen them doing so much because you know what I discovered? The birth rate is so bad among the Caucasians of the world that if they're not replacing themselves. So you know how they say that for a population to be sustainable, like every parent needs to have, at least one kid, or at least two parents need to have two kids so they replace themselves. They're not even doing that. So it is predicted that the European Caucasians will be extinct in 300 years. So now you can understand why the eugenics agenda has been just blatant eliminated. It's just been, with diseases, with vaccines, with food, just trying to eliminate us. But anyway, so he was talking a lot about how, Europe may be too late, but they do things better. That's what they said. They've come to the game too late, after China, after the US, after Russia, but they do things better. Yeah, they do things better. Colonialism, neocolonialism. Of course they do things better. Anyway, it was a full brotherhood event. Who is this Chancellor Kurz? And why was Kagame there just throwing up the signs, throwing up the brotherhood signs? And, he is deep brotherhood. I'll be letting you know more right after this. Wake up, Africa! Welcome back to Africa Watch on the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. So now Europe has also decided that they have a strategy for Africa. They're going to be partnering with Africa for a win-win situation. Whatever, such nonsense. Now, what happened is that there was an Africa EU forum, high-level forum is what they called it, where different presidents attended, brotherhood presidents. Our president was there, Kagame was there, the Ghanaian president was there, Mnangagwa was there, but noticeably absent. Just at the point, just confirming what I'm saying. Noticeably absent was Museveni. He was not invited to attend, or maybe he chose. I don't think he chose not to attend. So it looks like he was not invited to attend. And we've seen a lot of push this, in 2018 to get Museveni out of power, because he is no longer playing, singing to the tune of the colonizers or singing to the tune of the globalists. So he wasn't there. I was like, Museveni not there? Strange. Anyway, so Chancellor Kurz, I told you guys before I left, he's the world's youngest leader at the age of 31, and he's promised to save Europe. And people have compared him to Macron in terms of he came out of nowhere, during the Austria elections. Okay, before in 2013, he was appointed as the youngest ever foreign minister in Austria. And there was a lot of complaints. Guys said he was too young for the job, blah, 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 because if he's 31 then, imagine how young he was in 2013. He was in his early 20s. And so he's a globalist, and he's a New World Order puppet. And a lot of people are also suggesting that he's deep in the Freemason and Illuminati vibes, and that he was trained up and schooled up before he was unleashed on the world. So his whole thing has been his vote to destroy the New World Order and leave the EU in 2017. That was his campaign. He's been very anti-immigrant. He's talked about how he's sick of EU globalist policies by the European Union. But the allegations of him being an Illuminati and New World Order member are way stronger. So, not only was he a member of the EU Council of Foreign Affairs, but a lot of people feel he was groomed for this by the Illuminati. And his aim now is to influence beyond the Austrian borders. That has always been his vibe. And he's extremely popular in Germany. And he's been called the EU's new power broker and its most important politician. So it's no accident that he would be chosen, although he is a current sitting EU president, but it's no accident that he would be chosen to have the AU-EU summit in Austria and to be the one hosting it as the most important, politician for the European Union. Now, the other guy is Kagame. Kagame, of course, is deep brotherhood. I've talked about this, and guys catch feelings. Guys are like, oh, but Rwanda has done so well, and they've improved so much, and, stop hating on the only, father of our nation who's actually doing something. And I'm just like, wow, you guys have fallen for the lie. So you think Rwanda is just making it because Kagame is this amazing person. Do you know his involvement in the genocide? I will get into it one day. I promise I will. But I'm just like, why do guys support people blindly? And do you think out of all the 54 nations, Rwanda would just be the only one that happens to have it together? Come on, guys. Come on. Seriously. Now, we saw Kagame throwing up the sign as he stood in the middle of the Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz and Jean-Claude Juncker. And usually when they throw up the Brotherhood or Illuminati sign, it's to their overlords. It's to their handlers to show, yo, mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. And what mission has been accomplished? Well, Kagame, he's been, the AU president for the last 2 years, and his main thing was to push for the African integration and collapse of borders through the Africa Free Trade, Continental Free Trade Area. That was one of his biggest things. He was also pushing for, the collapse of borders of free trade, because that is the whole New World Order agenda. The New World Order agenda basically wants to create a one world government which they can run through regional entities like the European Union, like the African Union, and they can have their overlords and basically have this one global government, which will be easier to control. And so that's exactly what Kagame has achieved, although he is on his way out as the African Union president. And you know how I knew it? So, China, the globalists have moved from the US to China, and China is now like the new Rothschild globalist headquarter. And the way I knew it is because during his term as the president of the African Union, it emerged that the Chinese who had built the African Union headquarters had actually also been spying on the African Union and been taking all the information from every single computer and monitoring device in the AU every day, like every day at 2 a.m. They were transferring it to China. But all he said is, there's nothing for that. Anyway, we have no secrets. They can listen if they want. And he was so dismissive of that instead of giving a stern warning to China. And I was like, this guy ain't real. So now it will be very interesting to see. Of course, EU said that their main focus would be migration, security, and climate change, which is the major globalist agenda. And as I wind up, they talked about how Africa and Europe share a long history and a bright future. And this is why I proposed a new Africa-Europe alliance for sustainable investment in jobs. You see, they never apologize for colonialism. What do they mean, a long history and a bright future? The British have never said, I'm sorry. The French have never said, I'm sorry. The French are still controlling, acting like the overlords. They have never taken it. They still think in their heads that colonialism was a good thing because of this paternalistic nature. It just totally irritates me. And so we see, even with the focus, and I'll be talking about this AU-EU alliance more in 2019, it talks about how, the three major things that they're going to be focusing on is the strategic investment and job creation. And it's all about the digital world. Did you know that the US is building the biggest drone factory in West Africa? Did you know that there's also a lot of robotics and things like that are being done in Africa, that factories that are being built? That's what they mean by digitization. I've even been told there's cloning centers in Kenya, some bunkers just outside of Kenya in a place called Karen. Those are stories for other days. They're also going to be investing in education heavily. I've told you they're coming for our youth. They want to indoctrinate them. And lastly, the whole economic integration and trade, protecting the assets they already have, the natural resources they already have. 50 years of the European, interference in African development has led us nowhere. And now our leaders still want to create an alliance with our enemies. It's sickening. Anyway, may the Most High bless Africa. May His light shine upon Africa. And may He liberate us once and for all. Mwah.